What is happening, everybody? James Hancock here. I'm back for my favorite kind of review, one where I can basically abandon all critical analysis and just vomit praise all over something that I absolutely love and adore. I'm talking about the new anime series Super Crooks, coming to Netflix on November 25th. Easily one of my favorite shows of 2021. And not to where I will keep this video totally spoiler free, but tons of spoilers are already out there and very well known, and that the series is based on the 2012 4-issue limited series by writer Mark Millar and artist Lionel Francis Yu, a comic book which I have right here. Now, the premise of Super Crooks is pretty simple, but it's solid gold, where a handful of supervillains, led by Johnny and his lover Casey, team up basically for an Ocean's 11 style heist, where they try and rob the wealthiest and most dangerous supervillain who has ever lived. And of course, chaos ensues. But here's the thing that has me so damn excited. This is one of those rare examples where the adaptation wildly exceeds and surpasses the original source material. The exact opposite, let's face it, of what usually happens. Sadly, I've been conditioned to the fact that most shows and movies will take a great comic or a great novel and then find ways to dumb them down or dilute their potency or just outright politicize the concept out of some misguided effort to make it all feel like some self-righteous teachable moment. Well, Super Crooks does the exact opposite. Every change or addition to the material is designed to make the story funnier, sexier, more violent, more outrageous, just all around more entertaining, and it's hard to think of many examples in contemporary pop culture where that's the case. And if you're asking yourself which mad geniuses are responsible for such a delightful show, this adaptation was created by a Japanese team consisting of writer Dai Satō and director Motonobu Hori. I hope I'm getting their names correct, but they are two filmmakers I will be paying very close attention to in the future. Dai Satō, he's been writing animation for a long time, going all the way back to 3 episodes that he wrote for the late 90s anime classic Cowboy Bebop, and he absolutely brought his A game to the show. And what's interesting is how Dai Satō and Mark Millar collaborated. According to this interview with Mark Millar, he felt like his original series was too slim for a 13-episode show, so he cooked up a ton of new material and then let Dai Satō adapt it. And now the whole show slowly but surely builds up toward the inevitable heist featured in the comic. But it was around episodes 8 and 9, which I found to be absolutely amazing, that I started getting really depressed because I genuinely, sincerely did not want the show to end. Every episode is just pulsing with energy, imagination, and creativity, and I strongly recommend that folks just go ahead and watch it in Japanese as well. The way some of the characters, especially Gladiator, are portrayed will have you roaring with laughter from start to finish. I loved Gladiator in the comic. I thought he was hell on wheels, especially in the introduction where he punches Johnny right in the face, but he's so much better in the show and a strong contender for the most interesting character in the entire lineup. And when trying to understand what makes this show so enjoyable, I think it all boils down to style. This show just has style and abundance. The title sequence alone, with all the characters dancing, tells you all you need to know about this interpretation. And for me, it's just a joy when I find storytellers who can do their thing with so much confidence and so much swagger. You can tell they fully understand Mark Millar's high-octane style of entertainment, but Dai Satō and Motonobu Hori, they totally take the ball and run with it, injecting the story with their own flavor and personality, in particular during the first 10 episodes, which is all brand new material. And I love how the show gives us so much more time to fall in love with this insane cast of characters, many of whom felt a little thin in the original 4-issue series. Now characters like the Diesel brothers are some of my favorite new supervillains. Their ability to heal from any injury leads to some of the most gleefully gruesome and hysterical material that I've ever seen in animation. Furthermore, with all these extra episodes, there's room now for Johnny and Casey to have a proper love story. By far one of the best aspects of this show, with its own beautiful theme song that everyone's going to be humming for days after watching this show. Also, a quick side note, if you've ever fallen in love with a cartoon character before, Casey is going to break a lot of hearts. A, she's sexy as hell and is going to make people dizzy with her dance moves, as well as her very healthy sexual relationship with Johnny. But B, more importantly, she is the heart and soul at the core of this show, and I'm thrilled to no end that the show kept intact her most badass villain beat from the comic. Unlike most comic book adaptations, Super Crooks leans all the way in on the coolest panels and splash pages from the source material. Absolutely nothing has been defanged or declawed. These new episodes also open the door to appearances from a lot of the characters from the other Mark Millar Netflix show, Jupiter's Legacy. Now, I totally agreed with Netflix's decision to shut down that live-action show in that it got so much wrong about the comic, from the tone to the style to the pacing. They basically used 8 episodes to adapt about 3 pages of material and just fucked it all up with an overly earnest and almost laughably serious interpretation. But because these characters are all part of Millar World, basically all Mark Millar's original creations that Netflix bought recently, we now get to see characters like the Utopian and Brainwave back in action, but this time done right, in the hands of filmmakers who understand that audiences actually prefer their shows to be fun to watch. Mark Millar is a balls-to-the-wall storyteller, and he needs scandalous and appalling filmmakers in order to bring his material to the screen properly. Hindsight being 2020, Dai Satō and Motonobu Hori, they should have adapted Jupiter's Legacy as well, because with Super Crooks, somehow they've managed to create this perfectly faithful hybrid adaptation that keeps the best of everything that worked originally, but at the same time injecting the material with steroids and nitroglycerin, taking the concept to delirious new heights. I can't help but start cooking up a Christmas list of more comics that I would like to see receive similar treatment. From now on, I'm going to be pointing to the final few episodes of this show on how to adapt a comic book perfectly, where each issue translates to a roughly 25-minute episode. If the comic is good, the roadmap and the structure, they're already there, and I'm always bewildered when filmmakers take something that people love and then just break it and try and reassemble it as some sort of Frankenstein's monster. If you love the source material, just trust it or leave it alone. Or even better, bring the original creator back on board who understands what makes the story tick. Mark Millar, he's one of the few creators out there right now who's trying his best to give the world new franchises. Of course, he did his time in the trenches at DC and Marvel back in the day to build a name for himself, and it's no coincidence that a lot of this material has led to some of the best superhero movies. His run on the Ultimates provided a good roadmap for the 2012 Avengers movie. He wrote the original Civil War series, which inspired my favorite movie in the MCU. And his Old Man Logan arc provided a ton of inspiration for James Mangold's amazing movie from 2016. And of course, we have the great Matthew Vaughn movies like Kick-Ass and Kingsman: The Secret Service, based on Mark Millar's comics as well. The dude is just a true idea factory, and the good news is he still has many killer comics left for Netflix to adapt. They just need to call a mulligan on Jupiter's Legacy, pretend it never happened, and turn that entire series into some kick-ass anime. So what can I add that's not a spoiler? There's so much I want to get to, but I guess I should add that this is a rare example of great animation with an adult sensibility, obviously. I won't claim that the show has deep emotional maturity, that's not really what Mark Millar does, but if you enjoy great comedic beats where characters talk about taking a giant dump, or how they just got a raging erection and want to have sex without a condom, or just swearing at one another with language that would get most people thrown off social media, well, this show pulls no punches. And I'm sure some kids out there are going to stumble onto the show and start praying that they don't get caught before the show's over. But what really makes this show feel so fresh is how we get to live in the heads of villains for 13 glorious episodes. I'm honestly kind of sick to death of superheroes. Bring on the goddamn villains. They're always cooler. And the origin story of Johnny is especially good in the first episode in terms of how it turns the whole traditional superhero origin story totally upside down. And this show does a brilliant job of fleshing out the difference between a supervillain who loves to steal but never harms an innocent bystander versus a superhero like Praetorian who's more than happy to vaporize civilians if they get in his way when he's beating the snot out of the central characters. And the more I talk about Super Crooks, the more I realize just how much I liked it. I binged the hell out of the show, and I think a lot of other people are going to do the same, especially if those people like to laugh, smile, and cheer while watching supervillains do what they do best, whether that's getting totally shit-faced, trying to get laid, battling with superheroes, or best of all, infiltrating a giant base and getting away with stealing a vast fortune from a very scary dude who can make anyone's head explode just by thinking about it. This show gets my highest possible recommendation, and I can't wait to watch it again. So that's all I have for now. Hope everyone has a blast watching this when it gets released on Thanksgiving Day. If you enjoyed this review, you know the drill. Hit the like, subscribe, click the bell, but I can't thank you enough for watching, but more importantly, as always, onwards and upwards.